What's up guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are still working on this Audi Q5. Check out the last video, I did the lower timing cover seal on this. It came in leaking, had some issues. Now we're doing an oil pan for it. So check out the last video if you have an issue with your timing cover. And if not, welcome to the video with your leaky oil pan, which is common on these 2.0 engines with a turbo. This is a 2014 and it looks like just some bad previous work was done. So jumping right into it, disregard all the tools here, it's a mess from the last job. But what you'll need for this job is a 19, a 13, you'll need the triple square M10, you need this, you can't skip, and you need the triple square M14, and triple square is this, it is not a Torx. Don't try to put a Torx bit in there, it's a very common mistake DIYers make, especially new ones. This is a Torx bit for the oil pan bolts themselves. Remember, replace your oil pan bolts, they are not reusable. So once you take these out, go to the dealership, get you some new ones. T30 with an extension. I'll likely be using impact to take off those bolts. You're gonna want yourself a good light. And I am gonna be using an air gun on these extensions just because it's a lot quicker. You'll want a paint pen as well. And in this way you can mark the steering when you take it off. It sounds crazy, but this job isn't that bad. So let's jump into it. All right, here we are into the car. One of the first things you're gonna wanna do, locate your electronic steering. Obviously you'll have to take off your skid plate and all that good stuff, but locate this steering column. We have to disconnect this. On most cars, this is splined. If I remember correctly, this is a keyed one. So this isn't as important, but I just always like to do this to make sure that it's accurate. Draw yourself a big old line, and right on the shaft too. That way when you put it back on, you make sure those line up. That way your alignment's not all off. Because we're gonna have to pop this bolt free right here and remove this input shaft. All right, now let's talk about the rest of the job. So you gotta come under and find this X brace. After you find this, you'll have to remove these 18mm bolts on both sides here. And then there is the triple square bolts that I was talking about right here holding it on. And right here. And then there should be a plastic clip holding these wires in right here. So you want to remove this as well and lower out this whole entire X brace. And then we're going to come and remove the roll bar here. Two 13mm bolts on each side. That'll swing down. And then we got, I think this is a 19mm bolt. And there's a square bolt on the back right here. So we're going to unbolt this. And then this is going to drop and it's going to give us access to these hidden bolts back here. No, you can't fit it. Yes, maybe you can raise your engine up and get by within doing the motor mounts and not doing this, but with power tools, this doesn't take too long. And you can see our little oil leak right there. And a horrible RTV job right here. So we're going to get this cleaned up, drain his oil out, and get all this stuff prepped up. Alright guys, so we're going to just start removing these back bolts right here on this brace. Alright, so we got the gun. Just a cheap little air cat. It'll do the job. Alright, then we got the triple squares. Make sure it doesn't fit in loose. The triple square should fit really, really tight in there. Triple squares do not strip unless you're a bozo. You gotta try hard to fuck those up. And then you have the brace down. But remember I said there's these little wire clips holding it in? I just wait till I pop it down and then I get them out. So for that you can use a screwdriver or you can use like the actual tool. Just pop that out. Get that one down there. Just like so. Let's go ahead and slide that back. It'll probably be covered in grease and oil. All kinds of access for activities. Now I gotta switch this, pop that on. See why air tools are so helpful? Because you don't want to sit up here and try to break this thing free. You can just get that in there. Pop it right out. All right, and sometimes you can just get lucky and wiggle it up and over. Just make sure it doesn't rotate. But you see how this is flat right here? So it's okay, this isn't gonna move. So we'll line this back up with that paint line to make sure that that's good. Now we're coming to the front, getting these anti-roll bars. Excuse the camera work, I'm doing this one-handed and in flip-flops with a roll of paper towels. Just kidding. Now once you stop having fun with it, you should be done with it. I have fun with what I do. Alright, so there's the roll bar. I've owned a Q5 for a while and the roll bar has never rolled me anything, so debatable if it actually works. Alright, so you can just let that hang down like that, a pair of old nuts. And then we're gonna work on these right there, those bad boys. Alright, so now you'll have to remove your sway bar down just a little bit. Alright, so if you got a cheap little air cat like me, you might need to get yourself a ratchet to break this free. Just to break that one free. And then this one over here. They're just a little crunchy at first. Switch back over to the impact. There's a square nut on the back. Alright, so we got the bolt out. And this slides down. Disconnected from there. This is not light, so be careful. You do not want this falling on you. That gives us pretty good access right there. So you just slide it down about that much. I'm gonna tie it up so it doesn't fall down any further. Well, I ran out of my big zip ties, so I made a little daisy chain of small zip ties. This is just to keep it here in the random event that it falls and bashes your face in. So just a little extra support for you there. It is kind of heavy. Now that that's done, we're gonna drain the oil. Yes, you could have drained the oil first if you wanted to. I personally didn't want to work with the mess of dripping oil while I was down here. So I'm gonna change it right now. I just use a little red bucket like so that I've had for a long time. Gonna let that drain and get back to it. Alright, so we're pretty much ready to get to here. There's one bolt that really has my concern right here, and that's this one right here. You're really not able to stick the Torx bit on the front or the back side. It's just too long once it's in there. You can't get a ratchet or anything like that on it. In the link in the description, I'm going to leave a link for some stubby Torx that would probably get this out without having to do anything else. But all I got is this lame one. I need to order some myself. So I'm gonna do this. I have my engine support bar on here, maxed out. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna try to lift the engine while it's still connected just a little bit. Just enough so I can get a ratchet in there. All I gotta do is break it free and I can get the rest of my fingers. But we just wanna raise this engine up a little bit. So we're gonna see if this will do it right here. All right, now let's go in there and see. See if that gained us any room yet. I only did a little bit so far, so getting a little closer. I can at least maybe get an extension and a wobble on that. We're gonna go up a little bit more. All right, so now we're a little bit higher up with that engine ling holding it, so I can comfortably get on here. I can comfortably get in there all the way. If you're in here at like an angle like this is how you're gonna strip one of these out. And if you don't got room for this bit, imagine if you strip one of these in that spot right there. I've been there, it's not fun. Sometimes the motors have to get pulled, all kinds of different stuff has to happen. So we didn't put too much tension on it here, but it gained us a little bit of an inch. This brace really doesn't move, it's bolted to the frame. So if there's another way, maybe, but this is how I'm doing it right here. So now we're gonna take all these bolts off. Then we're gonna unclip this, do a little pull. A good tip also when doing these oil pans, guys, the most hardest bolt, start with that first. Because let's say you take all these out and then you can't get that one out. Well, looking kind of stupid, right? So get the hardest bolt out first. which is probably gonna be this back one. Matter of fact, get all the back ones out first, then proceed to the front, because the fronts are easy. These are the difficult ones here. See, like I was saying, I got the engine pulled up pretty high right now, and this is a 1/4 inch, and I still cannot, there's not enough room. I'm so close, I won't go in straight though. So, a stubby, you'll be in there, but this, no go. We're gonna see if the 1/4 inch will work. Can't even get my thumb on it. Well, that's how I gotta do it. Alright, and that is right there where you start with the hard ones. So once you get the hard ones out, the rest are fairly easy. I break a lot of them free by hand just to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So I'll just take this on an extension. Find that guy right there. We got all the bolts removed. No bolts left. If you have it still intact, there's your little wire will be connected to there, but nothing's really connected there. All right, so we got a pan sitting from the other car outside that I just bought. Tune into some of my other videos if you want to see the Audis and stuff I pick up and work on, but just grab this pan out. You're gonna want it for removing this. And here's a tip. If you look at by the book, you are not supposed to remove this oil pan with a screwdriver or any kind of prying material. You're supposed to actually hit it with a rubber mallet until it breaks free. Let me show you. And guys, I suck. Remove this part too. See, everybody makes mistakes. Pretty sure I broke that because I didn't remove the oil level thunder first, so I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm an idiot sometimes, but that's why you're here, so you gotta learn. Remove that first. All right, and then I came back and I removed that 10mm bolt holding up those lines back there, because that was really cramping my style. And there we are. It'll plop out just like so. Now time to get cleaned up. guys, well, we clearly can't use this oil pan because the bozo that took it off last time put a big old dent in it right here. So talked to the customer and we went ahead and got a new oil pan. Same with the timing cover that we had to do in the previous video. They smoked it right here. I don't know why you put a screwdriver in here, but don't do that. Now we're gonna put the silicone on this, but before we do that, there's one tip that'll help you guys. Go practice installing this really quick without any silicone on there. It's a tight fit, and if you break your bead of silicone, you might have to clean it up and start over again. So it's best just to take this underneath right now, go do a couple test fits, and then come back out and do all the silicone. All right, and of course you have the bottom side of the oil pan you need to prep and clean. I use these razor scrapers from Harbor Freight, and I use a green Scotch-Brite pad. One of my least favorite tasks is cleaning RTV because I'm OCD, and I gotta get it all. Like, as you can tell, like, it's gotta be a good surface area. Look at here where the numbnut scarred it a little bit on the outside with a screwdriver. Rookies. But yeah, I cleaned it all the way up. Getting in that back spot is kind of hard. You get a little reach around spot right here. If you're familiar with reach arounds, you'll be able to reach right up here and scrub and scrape and stuff like that. But I also keep this bungee cord on here to keep these lines out of the way. I don't want to disconnect them, but they're also like right in the way of the oil pan. So now you're going to want to take your pan and test fit it on here so that you have a technique without breaking the RTV seal. See, so from here, you figure out which angle you got to do it at and where you're going to lay. So in my experience, it's best to kind of come at an angle like this and tilt it. And then once you get right here, you turn it before you make contact with anything. And then boom. And this is why it's good practice, because you have the RTV on there and you don't want to hit anything, right? So you want to be careful and line all the holes up, have your bolts ready. Same thing when you take it out, give it a little rotation. So you're right here, right? Rotate it this way just a little bit and drop it right out. Let's go ahead and get the RTV on this. All right, so we got the pan here. I like to take a little bit of brake cleaner. Just make sure the surface is extra clean. We don't want any debris, nothing like that. Especially from the test fit, if you were getting what you call it, if you were getting oil on there. You want to take that off. I got fresh gloves on. All right, I live where it's actually really cold, so it's about 30 degrees outside. I actually just warmed this up a little bit. Makes it easier to use. Hopefully this kept it fresh. Gonna give it a fresh tip. All right, we got a big fresh tip cut. Let's go ahead and start. I just use this little pad because it actually hurts your hand after pressing for a while. Remember, inside the bolt holes. It's not perfect, guys. When it gets pressed down, you'd be surprised how much this stuff squirts out. Now the trick is installing this without messing the bead up. Let's go. All right, now we're about to bring the oil pan in here. I got all my bolts right here, ready to go. Make sure you have your T30 ready to go. And if you guys can see, I actually popped the transmission lines like up on this plastic thing. Gave me a little bit extra room. Make sure all the holes are lined up the best you can. And don't press too hard and don't wiggle it. Just put a bolt in. Finger tight. Take your time. Just finger tight. Now put all the bolts in. Alright, so we got this stubby star bit that I found. Remember that bolt that's a real pain in the ass? So we're gonna see if this little T30 will fit on it on the 1/4 inch. I mean, look at the difference here. The bit is longer than this whole setup. So this should work. Alright, let's see if this works, because if it works, this little $10 kit is about to save you guys some time, and time is money. Look at that bolt back there. That stupid bitch. Boom! Of course, it's too loose to grab it, but it fits. So that means there's 2 ways to do it. You can get the wrench and put it on there like I did, or this fits. It's still too loose to do jack shit with. Alright, so I got all the bolts placed in now, just hand tight, nothing is torqued down. We're gonna let this sit for about an hour now. I'm gonna do the brakes really quick, and then I'm gonna come back and torque all these down to spec, and then the job is done. Alright, the oil pan's been sitting for a little over an hour now. We're gonna come back through and torque all these bolts 10 Newton meters across the whole way in a crisscross pattern. There is a sequence for it, but we're just gonna do crisscross, so we just got the little torque wrench and gonna start those up now. Let's get the side. Solid. Back to the top. Alright guys, it's very hard to film in here. It's hard to get a wrench in here, let alone get a camera. Alright, so here's the oil level sensor that I broke like an idiot. Just really wasn't paying attention. Rookie mistake. I ordered one from FCP Euro. Shout out to you guys. Overnight shipping had it here the next day, so thank you for that. This is going back in the car, and we are going to put some oil in it. Alright, so I put a little bit of oil on that O-ring right there. What's nice is it comes with a new O-ring, so that's also replaced. So all kinds of new goodies going in this car. Alright. Look at that RTV bead. Man, it looks good. Get that clip back on there. Push that in. Alright, always double check your work. Make sure this is torqued down properly. We know all these bolts are torqued down. We're going to cut these off. We're going to get this mounted up. Get this line pulled back down. Get the little bolt that goes back in there. If you took this off to get a better angle, put that back on. Double check all the work here. What you guys know about the mechanic basketball? Deflate a basketball and you got yourself a nice little pillow for when you're working up in here. So next, cut these off. And we're gonna push this power steering rack back up and get this sway bar mounted back up. All right, so then we got the steering shaft and it pushes up a little bit. So then we're gonna push it right back down. All right, so I had to hop out and turn the steering wheel just a little bit, unlock it with the key, and it just fell right on there. So if you're having to force it on there, probably not needed. Go turn the wheel a little bit and see what happens. All right, so that's all hooked up. One of the only things we have left now is that support brace. So let's get that back up here. This one should be pretty self-explanatory if you took this off. And those little plastic pieces will push into the top. Once you push those plastics in, it'll hold it up a little for you. Now, of course, I'm going to lower the engine. Make sure that your drain plug on the oil pan is torqued down to spec. Now it's time for the moment of truth. Time to add the oil and see if we fixed our leaks. It's 4.8 quarts, so we'll stop just to make sure. We'll top it off if needed. Alright guys, now we got the oil full. We're going to start the car, let it run for about 45 minutes to an hour or so, check for leaks, and then check our oil level. If this video helped you guys at all, smash a like, hit that subscribe button, follow along for all my mechanic journeys here. Can't do it without your guys' support. Your guys' support helps it so I can make more videos like this. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.